I cannot emphasize this enough. Once the association gets a lawsuit, you've got to let us know. Too many times I see it where they send it to their attorney and now they see it's getting big and they say, oh, now we need to submit this. The problem with that, of course, is if you wait too long to submit after a lawsuit has been filed, you could lose coverage under the general liability. Hello, and thank you for joining us for an episode of Policy Party. I'm Negar Sharifi, joined by my partner, Phil Masi. Today, we figured let's discuss claims, when to file them, and how the different types of claims matter. We get claims all the time. I probably have 3 in my inbox right now saying we need to file a claim. And what I try to explain to my property managers and boards is that the type of claim, whether it's property, general liability, directors and officers, or crime, matters. So Phil is here with me today, and I would ask for you to help me kick it off with property claims, Phil.
Sure.
When is it important for a board and a property manager to file a claim?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try to be careful on property claims because a lot of times the day-to-day type stuff that happens at an association, at a condo, they got a pipe break or water leak between units and they want to file a claim, and the deductible might be $5,000, $10,000. If it's a high rise, it might be $25,000, $50,000. And the damage we're talking about when you look at the association's responsibility is maybe $2,000 or $1,500 or $800. This doesn't really make sense to file a claim that we know isn't even going to be in excess of the deductible on the policy. So usually we would, in a situation like that with a water damage claim, try to figure out what the cause was, try to figure out what the damage amounts are before we go to file it. Doesn't mean you can't let us know what's going on. You build a file, but I wouldn't be in a rush to file that unless it's obvious. So from a property perspective, I mean, if we have a massive fire and it's burning out the roof and stuff like that.
That one's pretty obvious.
You got to file it, right? I mean, so like some of them are dead obvious and some are like, I don't know. And some are clearly way too low. So I think those middle ground ones of like, hey, 5 units are impacted. I mean, probably going to be enough for a claim, but I don't know what the deductible is. If it's a high rise and it's a $50,000 deductible, maybe not. If it's a, garden style and it's $5,000, it may be different.
Yeah. So on that note, when it relates to property, I look at how big it's going to be, how big the claim is going to be, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say the deductible is $10,000. What I usually advise my boards is, listen, your deductible is $10,000. To me, I wouldn't file it unless it's more than $15,000. Because one, you also have the headache of having to work with an adjuster, and it's hitting your loss run report.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that you can't underestimate the time it takes, right? So an adjuster comes out there, you have to meet with them, you're going through all that. That's costing the property manager time, right? And all that other stuff. Now, sometimes you have a problem owner or there's reasons why you'd want it to just cross every T, dot every I, and file the claim, and I get that. But other times you're just creating work for yourself on something that ultimately isn't going to be worth the payback for. And then, as you mentioned with the loss runs, if your loss runs are clean for the last 5 years and you have a claim like this, it's not a big deal. But we see associations that have suffered with significant water claims, multiple over the years.
So that was going to be my next point.
You don't want to
I look
add
at
to
claims
that.
frequency.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If they're an association that's had multiple claims, I have to also take that into consideration. Because what do underwriters do when they're when we bid out an account, we're collecting bids? What do underwriters do?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to look at the loss history, and like you see the same thing with like fires. If you have 2 fires that were filed that weren't that big, but they're fires, and then another fire happens and it's not that big. I mean, 3 fires in 5 years, like at some point you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
Yes. Okay. So that's property. By the way, in all cases, they should reach out to us.
Yeah,
right?
we'll help you with
We
that.
can help you with this. But kind of just something to think about is property is before you reach out to us, you want to have a pretty good idea of what maybe the repair costs are going to be. Like have a contractor come out and take a look, give you a bid. And then we can kind of go from there on deciding whether or not to file a claim. Okay, next one, general liability. So again, general liability claims are those involving bodily injury, like a trip and fall, drowning, an assault, or property damage, like someone's car gets damaged by a gate.
Yeah. I think that the property, if you look at the 2 types of claims, the property damage, third-party property damage claims are ones you can be even more aggressive with doing what you want with, basically. If you have a gate hitting a car, which we get these claims all the time. I always tell my clients, all right, do you believe the association was at fault? Did the gate malfunction? Was it a gate issue, or was this a driver issue? Most of the time it's a driver issue, right? Like they weren't letting the car go through. There was proper notice. They didn't file,
They tailgated.
They tailgated, did something they weren't supposed to do. The driver user error basically caused it. And in those scenarios, I mean, the association go after the driver if they want for the damage they caused to their gate. But ultimately, I would, if that person came to me, I would say, listen, we reviewed the footage and we feel like this is not the association's liability, and just not file anything. Now, if they sue, obviously, yes, they file a claim against us like that, we would report the claim. But I think you have more leeway there. On the bodily injury stuff, I think you do too, depending on the scenario. So we get claims all the time from individuals walking around the track at one of these associations and they trip over their own feet and fall and skin their knees. They're fine. They get an ice pack. They deny medical attention. That's not something you could definitely let us know. We'll create a file, but I don't know that needs to go anywhere. Now, if that person, fell, broke their femur, was taken by ambulance somewhere, that's a different degree of issue. I think having, obviously we talked about this in other podcasts, but having video footage of that, witness statement, stuff like that matters, because if you can't show any reason they fell and they literally fell over their own feet, I think it's a different story than if you know there was a crack that was a problem or something malfunctioned. Someone fell through the stairs of the community.
I've had that.
I've had it too many times to count.
Yes.
There's things where the associations potentially has negligence there. I mean, I don't think those are ones we want to mess around with. We'd rather the carrier be on the front end with it, get all the data and get everything. Now, once a lawsuit comes in or once a demand letter comes in or anything like that, once an attorney is involved on the liability side, you have to file it. No more games.
I cannot emphasize this enough. Once the association gets a lawsuit, you've got to let us know. Too many times I see it where they send it to their attorney. Most good attorneys that specialize in the association space will immediately say, submit this to your insurance agent. Mm-hmm. Or if they know me, they'll send it to me directly and copy the board. But I've also seen way too many times where they send it to their attorney. Their attorney handles it for a while, and now they see it's getting big. And they say, oh, now we need to submit this.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with that, of course, is if you wait too long to submit after a lawsuit has been filed, you could lose coverage under the general liability.
Well, I think part of the issue here is when we're talking about claims, it's almost like we have to call them incidents, right? So if it's a property incident, liability incident, it's not really a claim unless you file it, right? So it's when do we want to get to that point? And I think once legal's involved, you have to do that because there's going to be certain notice requirements or ability to respond, paperwork that they're going to need that the clock's running on that we need to get going. So anytime an attorney sends you something, and a lot of times those letters will come in and they'll say, our client of the client's name, it's Morgan and Morgan. This is the date. No one's ever heard of this person. There was nothing reported on that date. The association has no info on that. Still, you got to get it to us. We file it, and then just make sure you tell your agent, hey, there's nothing we have on this. We did not know anything about this person or the location or what they're saying. We don't even know where it happened or what happened. That's fine for us to know because then our folks will go and try to get that information. But that's just something that we see in this market. Unfortunately, you get kind of sued for nothing.